Hello, and welcome to another edition of One Bad Veggies Root Beer Review, where in this review, we're reviewing a root beer that claims to add the flavor of what root beer used to taste like to root beer. So this review is for Hosmer Mountain Sarsaparilla root beer. Now, for anyone who knows anything about root beer, Sarsaparilla is technically the grandfather of root beer. Sarsaparilla was named after the root, which was the main ingredient of the soda. Once sarsaparilla became something that you couldn't really use in drinks anymore, because it got like illegalized for like food and stuff like that. It's kind of like when root beer took hold. Even though even root beer had sarsaparilla root in it, the best way to explain it is like, imagine that root beer had a little bit of a smokier taste to it, and that's what you get with sarsaparilla. When root beer was made with sarsaparilla, it was basically an extra sweetened version of sarsaparilla. So the idea of making a sarsaparilla root beer, which I would assume they're not using real sarsaparilla, because I as far as I know, that's still something you're not allowed to add to foods anymore. I am really interested in seeing what this would mean, because sarsaparilla flavor, because root beer still uses sarsaparilla flavors in it, not actual sarsaparilla, just artificial versions of that flavor. So what does it mean to be a sarsaparilla root beer if the assumption is that you already kind of taste like sarsaparilla to begin with? By the way, this is a re-review, and I looked up just to see what the previous score that I had given to this root beer, and it actually got a high rating. And I'm actually kind of curious to see if that rating still stays, because honestly, just by the title of this, yeah, I'm a little confused at why is it sarsaparilla root beer? Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the ingredients. Maybe we'll find some of the answers we're looking for just in the ingredients. So let's go ahead and get the ingredients up right now, because there are a few interesting things that I found in that. So they're going to pop up right here. And first off, the thing that I noticed was it says sugar. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't tell you, is that when something says sugar on it and it doesn't say pure cane sugar, it doesn't say anything else like that, it just says sugar, there's a chance it could be high fructose corn syrup. Like, for some reason, they're allowed to use the term sugar for high fructose corn syrup. So I'm not sure if this is sugar or high fructose corn syrup. However, just underneath it, you have brown sugar. Now, brown sugar I find to be usually pretty tasty in most soft drinks. So I think that's a definite plus. But really the main thing is at the bottom, let's go ahead and get over to the actual bottle so you can get a look at the art here. I'll move that up in a second. The interesting thing is I found out that with its extract of sarsaparilla root, which apparently, because it's not pure sarsaparilla, you can use the extract in small amounts. Also probably why it's the bottom ingredient of the root beer, because it's probably the thing that there's the least of. Also, come to find out that sarsaparilla was used in some medicinal practices and stuff like that. And I know that sometimes you get companies that maybe don't want more natural things being used, and maybe that's why perhaps it was legalized way back when. And maybe it does do harm. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on the supposed reasons why sarsaparilla can't be used in cooking anymore. But anyway, so yeah, let's get a closer look at the bottle. You can see there's some sort of words here. Let me read them for you. Hosmer Mountain lies in the heart of New England in the pristine northeast section of Connecticut, known as the Quiet Corner. A rather minor geological formation, it forms a ridge of the valley known as the, let's read this a little bit closer, Wilmantic. In 1912, spring water emanating from its base was used to establish the Hosmer Mountain Spring Bottle Works. So there you go, a little bit of history for you of learning more about Hosmer Mountain. I know Hosmer Mountain does more than just root beer. I know they do all sorts of different drinks and stuff like that, so it makes a lot of sense. Apparently they must use, the ingredients, as I showed you before, one of the things that you point out is it says non-chlorinated water, which, if they put that on the bottle, they're clearly proud of it. So I don't know I mean, I would hope that you wouldn't use chlorinated water in a drink, but thank you for letting me know for sure it isn't chlorinated. Otherwise, yeah, the ingredients definitely, add a little bit more credence to the whole sarsaparilla root beer thing, considering it's literally got extract of sarsaparilla brewed in it. So let's go ahead and open it and give it a sniff and see what kind of flavors come out. All right, let's go ahead and crack this open and see what we got. Popped right open. That's good. So not a lot to say. It smells like root beer. It smells like a sweet root beer, not overly anise, not overly creamy. Just a good root beer. Like I said before, looking back at the old review that I did, I gave it a high score. Right now, I don't see why, because honestly, it's root beer. It's root beer. Nothing about it says sarsaparilla to me. I have had sarsaparilla before, so I do know the difference between the flavor of root beer and sarsaparilla. Doesn't necessarily evoke the smoky sort of flavor that sarsaparilla has on its own, but perhaps it will once we get to the taste test. But for now, let's go ahead and get to the pour and the foam. We've got our trusty mug here to do, of course, its duties as the official container of root beer for drinking. Okay, I can't get the bottle top off. There we go. Got it. Good times. Yeah, let's go ahead and pour this and see what kind of foam we get. Not too shabby. And look at that. It lasts for a second. So let's go ahead and get a sip of this and see if we taste anything in the foam. Let's go ahead and see what we got. So, as I was saying before, brown sugar definitely adds something to soda that I really enjoy. Something about it. I don't know what it is. Maybe, too, in this case, maybe that extract mixed with the brown sugar does give it some sort of oomph, some I don't want to say it's smoky, because smoky's not the right word, but it definitely adds something to it, because I've had smoky flavored root beers, usually salted caramel root beers usually add a little bit of like a smoky flavored root beer. It's not a good thing. And in my past, when I've had sarsaparilla, I would say I do not enjoy it as much as I enjoy root beer, but root beer is purposely sweeter than sarsaparilla anyway, so I would enjoy it more naturally. But yeah, even in the foam, there is definitely something extra that I can't quite put my finger on yet. Almost like I don't want to say stronger. That's not right either. It's a little confusing. It's not bad. And I'm interested in seeing how this tastes now, because it could be really good. So let's find out. All right, let's go ahead and get into this taste test. Bottoms up. So first off, I get it. I get why I gave this such a high score the first time. Just for full clarity, I gave this a B back when I originally did it on the blog. Now that post is probably close to 10 years old, if not older at this point. So, taste change and stuff like that. I wasn't sure I still feel the same about it. I'm not going to get into what I'm going to grade this right now. However, it is very good. I don't know how else to put it. As for the reasons why I'm saying this, what the flavors I'm getting here is that it's got a mix of flavors that I really enjoy. Do I taste the sarsaparilla specifically in it, knowing what sarsaparilla usually adds to root beer? No, not especially. It doesn't really make that big of a difference, or maybe it does. Maybe that's the X factor that I'm maybe not tasting off the top of it, but There is something there. I would say there is something on the back end. Now, to me, it tastes more like vanilla. It doesn't taste like sarsaparilla. However, and it's got a good bite too. That's something like I don't always mention the bite because sometimes most of the time, the bite's kind of weak, but this actually has like a good, you know, when you have a good bite, you know what the bite is, and it has a good bite. But otherwise, you know, saying anything else would really go into the territory of explaining why I've graded it the way I've graded it. Right now, I'm just supposed to be talking about the flavors. So the flavors are right up front. You get a good, good, creamy, sweet root beer flavor. On the back end, no bitterness, nothing like that. You get a delicious vanilla flavor in the background. It's not anything super crazy, but it is a very good version of what I like. So anyway, like I said, if I keep talking about the flavors anymore, because there's really not too much to say about the actual flavors of it. It is a very good root beer on the type of root beers that I like something like a Sprecher's or something like that, where it's very creamy. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the letter grade, and that way I can really kind of break down how I feel about it. Now, normally when we get into flavored root beers or root beers that claim to have a certain flavor in it, normally I'm much more harsh on root beers that claim to have a certain flavor and either overdo it or underdo it, right? This time, I can't really say like, oh, I don't taste the sarsaparilla in this root beer, because root beer already is supposed to taste like sarsaparilla. So I'm not like upset by the lack of sarsaparilla flavor appearing to me, because I mean, that's what root beer tastes like. Root beer tastes like a version of sarsaparilla. There's just nothing more to say about it than that. That said, as a root beer, it's pretty good. I'm going to give it a B, which is what I gave it previously. And I'm sticking to that because, first off, the flavor profiles of it, like I said before, we're on the creamy sweet side, which is the sort of root beer flavor that I like to begin with. However, this is doing it in a way that is maybe above normally what I would give a C. A C, you know, I always say is just your standard good root beer. You know, people don't always look at C's like with letter grades and stuff like that as a positive thing. C's for me are perfectly down the middle, and this just exceeds that level just enough just to get it a B. I'm not saying it's like one of the best root beers I've ever had. In fact, the best root beers I've ever had are exclusively saved for the A letter grade. But I am saying that this is definitely on the high end of root beers that taste the way you want to, but specifically if you like this certain kind of root beer, this kind of vanilla flavored, and even like, you know, I said before with the brown sugar, there is something about the brown sugar that adds something to it. And it's one of those indescribable somethings. Like I can taste the brown sugar in it, right? And I guess that's the way you describe it, I guess, technically. So, it's hard to get into any more of the intricate details of why this is so good, because it is basically just like I said, it is a standard root beer with just that little extra oomph of something in it that I like specifically that pushes it up into the B letter grade. So, yeah, B. So at this point in time, I have no idea if I've actually streamed anything on Twitch recently, because I've been recording these ahead of time, and that's why you need to follow me on Twitch, so that way you can know if I'm streaming, because at this point it's the future and I don't know either. So do that, and also like and subscribe, and if you like the videos, go ahead and turn on notifications, because then you'll know when they come out, which I mean is every Friday at noon currently. I tend to fall off of things for months at a time, but I am trying, and that's why I'm doing these ahead of time. This is why we're in the future, so that way you can have these when I don't feel like doing them, it's fine because I've already recorded like 5 of these already. So it's great. Anyway, that's it. And I hope you had a good time.